Hello, my friends. Today we're talking Azure Key Vault. And if you're preparing for an Azure security exam like AZ-500, you want to watch this session. And if you're preparing for a DevOps exam like AZ-400, you want to watch this session. And if you're really just trying to maybe level up your infrastructure as code or improve your DevOps skills, you really need to watch this session. We've got great tips right up to the very end of this video and a good bunch of code samples and additional reading for you over on the GitHub repo. It's the content you've been asking for in a very concise package, so let's get to it. Today, we're explaining Azure Key Vault security in plain English. And I have something cool I wanted to share with you today. It's the Azure Resource Scheduler, which will allow you to start and stop your Azure VMs so they're only running when you want. And it's free, my favorite price, if you're managing 10 VMs or less. So it's a great way to keep your development or your exam prep lab cost under control. And it even comes with a little reminder so you can skip a run straight from your phone if you need to work late. And it's now available in the Azure Marketplace. So on with the show. All right, so today we're talking securing Azure Key Vault in plain English. And I brought the perfect guy for the job. Ryan, how are you doing?
Doing good, sir. You? Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
Always good, always good. So, whether you're a DevOps person, maybe studying for AZ-400, or you're more security focused, studying for the AZ-500 exam, we're drilling down for exactly both of you exclusively. So whichever audience you fall into, this is going to be a great session for everybody to understand how all of the ways we can secure Azure Key Vault at the management plane and the data plane. And if you don't know what the management plane and data plane are, then stick with us and you will when we're done. So Ryan, where are we going to start, my friend?
All right. So today we're going to start by deploying a resource group and a new Azure Key Vault, and then we're going to look into adding secrets and then securing access to said Key Vault. So to start, we need to create a resource group. And of course, you can use Azure PowerShell if you'd like. You understand at this point that we are definitely partial to Azure CLI. As such, you see in my Cloud Shell window right now, creating a new resource group called Fine Tune Access Key Vault. And then I'm going to generate a random alpha number so that I can append the name of our key vault with something unique, because again, we need a globally unique name for our key vault, which is similar to a lot of other globally accessible resources in Azure.
And what you'll see there is Ryan's always using a four character alphanumeric. And so that 4-character alpha, if you just look at 4 squared, that gives you a number of possible combinations that takes you beyond where you're ever going to hit.
In most cases, yes, I agree. Yeah. If you hit a duplicate, you should really comment on our channel and let us know. That would be something.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see Ryan's doing this in CLI. So everything in the transcript is going to be in the show notes over on the GitHub repo, along with links to quick start tutorials that will help you do this in the portal, in PowerShell, in ARM. So just like everything else in Azure, we can deploy and interact with our Azure Key Vaults through the CLI, through PowerShell, through ARM, through the portal. And there we go. So we've got a resource group and a Key Vault now.
Let's check in our portal, make sure it's coming through, and there we go. Our Key Vault is now available. And there we go. And we've deployed it using the standard SKU for now. All right, at this point, we need to also create a secret to add to our Key Vault. And we're going to add our secret in clear text here, just so you can see end to end. Under normal circumstances, it's perfectly fine to pass in your secret value as a variable. So instead of, for instance, putting a clear string of 100 days of IaC 1 in here, you could create a random value if you need to, or take this value, add it to a variable, and then use that variable value in place of what we have here. If you're using Azure PowerShell, you would have to secure your string first by converting it to a secure string before being able to add it to the Key Vault using Azure PowerShell.
Yeah, good point.
All right, so we have, simple as that, our secret is set.
And you intentionally expose that as clear text, right, Ryan? So
yes.
not something we would typically do. It's for demonstration folks. So
correct. If you go and tell someone that we said this is the right way to do it in all scenarios, you are wrong.
Fake news. So
exactly.
And so Ryan, you added a secret, right? You added a password. Now could I do the same thing? How would this process vary if I'm working with a certificate, which in Key Vault is a complex object?
Yes, with a certificate, you have a couple of options. Most cases, you can use the actual GUI here if you'd like to, and you can either generate or import your certificate. You can determine if you want to, use a self-signed certificate, something that's integrated with a CA or non-CA integrated.
This is perfect, Ryan. Pause right there if you don't mind. So everybody look at this menu. So you see integrated CA and non-integrated CA. So whether you're talking AZ-400 or AZ-500, the integrated CA allows us to generate certificates for services like Azure App Service. And the certificate can be generated and then its lifecycle managed automatically through integration here with Azure Key Vault. So then the renewal can be automated. Make sure you know that. Make sure you know the difference between the integrated and the non-integrated for the exams, folks. Sorry, Ryan, back to you.
No worries. Next, you'd want to put a subject, such as a common name, like your domain name of the certificate in here, associated DNS names, the validity period in months, what type of a certificate, is it PKCS or PIM? As Pete pointed out, you have the renewal lifetime actions options available to you in here as well. So whichever option is preferable to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and by the by, on that topic of renewal, you saw the validity period in months is 12 by default, right? So depending on what it was, so the last time I looked, the published recommended maximum lifetime for a certificate for the common uses we would use a certificate for was 27 months. And I believe that might have been back down a little bit, but there's an organization out there that publishes that recommendation. So Microsoft's giving you a pretty safe default, and if it's automated renewal, then it's okay to be aggressive. If it's a non-integrated scenario where you're going to have to renew it, you're going to hate your life if you're having to deal with that once a year, because 12 months never passes quickly unless there's a really rotten task waiting for you at the end of that 12 months.
Absolutely. And not to mention, you can determine the percentage lifetime before that renewal happens. So that could be useful to you if you want something that is renewed more frequently. In our advanced policy configuration here, you can customize any features related to the actual certificate. Key usage flags. You come up out of this. Whether it's exportable or not, whether it's renewable, the key size up to 4096.
Yeah, and that 4096 should be a safe key size nowadays for virtually everything. There was a time where you couldn't use 2048 for some network appliances, but most of those, all of those that I can think of that would have been impacted have since been updated, and that's gonna 4096 is a recommended key length nowadays, and it's gonna be safe until we see something, I think, big happen with quantum.
Exactly. Quantum computing will probably have we'll have to rethink encryption altogether. Yeah. And onward. That is not part of AZ-500 or 900, people. So
there you go. So while we're in here, Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead and cancel out of here. This is good. So as we're exiting the certificate interface here, I want to mention just a reminder that certificates are complex objects in a Key Vault sense, and they're stored, I believe, as 3 separate objects if memory serves. Do we actually, just for our listeners, do we actually see those 3 separate objects in the UI here, Ryan, or is it all nicely hidden?
It is all nicely hidden, if I remember correctly. If you'd like to, we can walk through and generate one real quick.
I've never seen the 3 objects show up in the UI here that I can remember.
Yeah,
I've always just said that because that fact is really just a bit of trivia, right?
Correct. And
will not be tested on the exam, folks. Where you want to know that certificate is stored as 3 objects is when you start getting into programmatic interaction with Key Vault and generating certs and retrieving certs.
Correct. So I'm just creating some BS certificate.
Yeah.
And you can see it's disabled right now. It should generate it fairly quickly, actually. There we go. Sure. This doesn't take very long for it to generate, but it does have the 3 states of the certificate. Well, once it's completed, go under our current version, we can see the identifier, the information about the certificate in and of itself, and we can download it in 3 formats, essentially: SIR, PFX, and PIM.
Yeah, so just for the record there, folks, the SIR format does not include the private key, and the PFX format does include the private key. So remember, if you've created a certificate and you need to download it and put it, say, on a web server or in an app service instance, a certificate's not worth a heck of a lot if you don't have the private key. It's half the handshake, essentially.
Correct. And be aware of the warning you are given here. Well, notification, more likely, may contain a private key without password protection. So make sure you're not downloading this on, well, I don't know. I'm not going to assume what our viewers are doing in their spare time and where they're doing it. Just be careful.
Yeah, so you download this, you use it where you need to, and then you get it the heck off of the disk, folks. You never leave a certificate with a private key laying around. So, Ryan, what do you say we pop out of here and let's go back to the Key Vault instance, and we're going to have the first discussion around one of those buzzwords I threw out, which is the management plane. So if you'll go to Access Control, the IAM, in the top of the center menu there. Yep. So the Key Vault instance itself, folks, is what we call the management plane, and we control access to the Key Vault through to the instance through RBAC, role-based access control. So you may see that question come up on either of the exams, particularly AZ-500. Controlling access at the management plane, RBAC. That's going to be a core concept that could very easily pop up, and you'll notice here that Ryan can view his access, and then underneath there, he can assign access to a user group or service principal, because those Correct. 3 items all represent something called a security principal, which is, quite an old concept, actually.
I'd like to comment on one thing here, Pete, real quick.
Yeah, far away.
One thing you'll notice, if you have something that's popping up in here that says identity not found, unable to find identity, if you're doing a lot of iteration testing with service principals or users or things in general that have contributor access across your entire subscription, you're going to find a lot of these missing identities in here. And if you delete them, they no longer exist, but the record of them does exist in here. I wish I knew why that doesn't actually get cleaned up or why it remains, but just be aware of you're not doing anything wrong in your subscription. It's still referencing an identity, whether it's a service principal or a user or a group, that just no longer exists.
Yeah, there you go. Good point. Why don't we talk about granting access to a Key Vault, Ryan, in the context of a service principal or a managed identity? I know that's definitely exam fodder, and for our DevOps friends, that's top of mind, right? We want to access our Key Vault programmatically, which means I'm not there interactively logging in.
Correct. So let's go ahead and create a service principal, actually. So what we could do is, first of all, we're going to get our actual subscription ID. we're going to need this because we're going to create a service principal, again, using the Azure CLI. And we're going to scope this user to the actual Key Vault itself. Okay, it's only going to have reader access, as you see here, all the way down to the Key Vault, nothing else in the Azure subscription.
And so again, we're still working at the management plane here, folks. We're just granting access to the instance, the Key Vault instance itself. So this isn't touching the content of the Key Vault, which we'll get to in a moment.
Correct. So we're going to echo out the app ID of our service principal we've created.
So what does that app ID mean to us, Ryan?
Oh, this app ID is just an identifier of a programmatic identifier of the actual service principal in and of itself. We can restrict access programmatically using this app ID, or to be able to control to control how we actually apply access and how we control access using this ID in some cases, depending upon which tools you're using in the Azure CLI.
Nice. So think of that as more or less like a username-ish.
Yeah, it can be. It's an identifier, and honestly, with my commands, the commands have been updated to be able to take the common name in some cases, such as this, or HTTP : / and then the name of the service principal. So it depends on the command you're working with, and it's the same with Azure PowerShell as well. All right, so let's go in here and refresh our role assignments, and let's see if we can find our reader that we've added in here. Maybe at the bottom. There it is. So SP restricted Key Vault access. So now it has reader access to the Key Vault, but it does not have access to the secrets yet. Those are controlled under access policies. Pete.
Yeah, so here, folks, we're stepping in to the next level of access. Now, before we go there, Ryan, do me a favor, and I want you to just in access control IAM here, click add for me.
Sure.
And I want to talk about role assignment. So go ahead and click add role assignment. So another bit of a right there under it's directly under add. Yeah, there you go. Click.
There you go.
So what I want to point out here, folks, is exam fodder. You could see a question on role assignment, and I want you to notice that there is a Key Vault contributor role. So when we're thinking about RBAC on the whole, the role of contributor at the broadest sense would mean that I have access to everything except the right to grant access to other people. So in Key Vault, on the exam today, the only role I expect you would probably get questioned on is going to be Key Vault contributor. And the reason is, I want you to look at Ryan's screen here, and you're going to notice that the word preview sits by every other Key Vault role. Watch this carefully as you're prepping for the exam. You know, the day that no longer says preview, that's going to be much more likely to appear on an exam, because as a general rule, Microsoft's not going to test you on preview tech because it might not make the cut. It might not become GA. But whether you're looking at the DevOps exam set or you're looking at AZ-500 on the security side, know that Key Vault contributor role is definitely one when we're talking about management plane access. So, Ryan, you mentioned controlling access to our secrets with access policy. So at least today, folks.
Correct.
So now we're stepping into what we call the data plane, folks. And now we're looking at our passwords, our secrets, our certificates, the contents of the Key Vault. So Ryan, hit us with security around the content.
Okay, so you have several options in here for access policies within your Key Vault. It's divided in 3 sections, one for keys, secrets, and certificates. One thing to be aware of, in general, you have key management operations for controlling how you can interact with your secret certificates and keys. cryptographic operations as well. And then the one that is probably high on people's radar as of late has been the purge functionality. This is always a privileged key operation, and when you grant full access by default to keys, secrets, or certificates, this is not enabled by default. So this is something you have to go through each of them and enable.
Yeah, so Ryan, that being said, can I delegate permissions to specific secrets in my Key Vault? Can I give somebody access to only a specific certificate or a specific password? What's my granularity
Unfortunately,
there?
yeah, your granularity is not that deep yet. There's been discussion around it. I think there's been requests for it. Fortunately, you can't do that just yet. But what you can do is you can ensure that people have minimal access to the secrets in and of themselves. So for instance, let's do secret management here, and we're going to change this down to only the get option. Okay. We're going to provide get secret permissions to our service principal we created earlier. And
so at this point, Ryan, you're locking this service principal down to access to just secrets and just being able to retrieve the secrets.
Correct. But they can't list all of them.
Yeah, so think of get like a read.
Correct. So we selected them in here, click add. And then here's the thing that if you're using the GUI, you will be tripped up. After you're done adding the policy, you still have to save it. So don't get in a hurry and start clicking off. Otherwise, you have to go through the entire process again. All right. So now our SP restricted key vault now has read only or get access only to this particular key vault. Now the tricky thing is.
Go ahead, sorry.
Pete.
No, go ahead.
No, I was thinking about retrieving the actual secret as that service principal, and having to log in as that service principal to pull it through. So go ahead, Pete, real quick while I'm thinking about this.
So real quick, when we're looking at access policies, when we're down there in the data plane, we see that when we add access policies, we have access to some templates of sorts, and I wanted to just show folks the access policy templates that are available. So click add access policy.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
And then you see here, when Ryan hits this drop down, you can configure from templates. So these templates represent some common scenarios like key and certificate management or Azure backup or data lake storage. So these are intended to allow you to select a template which sets all of it selects all of the necessary checkboxes. It's doing the heavy lifting of configuring least privilege for you. And then you can move forward with the assignment. So take a look at this. Make sure for the exams you've got this in your scope. Because the other thing to remember is even if something like this doesn't get called out specifically in the skills measured, if the topic is something around access management, this is very much going to be in scope because those skills measured are not exhaustive. So you're always going to see something that's not called out explicitly in that bulleted list. Okay, Ryan, go ahead with what you were going to show us.
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about it on the fly. We could do a demo. We might have to put this in a different demo, but to show how you can log in, for instance, in the shell as the service principal, and then try and retrieve the secrets from the key vault to show that you can't list, but you could actually only retrieve retrieve the values of the secrets that you know. So the way to think about that is kind of like in layers. If you are able to get the secrets, but you don't know all the secret that's in there, well, it's Security through obscurity, which is definitely not the best way to go, but it's better than being able to list everything and then retrieve everything in one shot. I think we need to put a pin in that to demo that a different time. Unfortunately, there's too many other steps to go through at the moment. But yeah, it's something I wanted the viewers to be aware of, that when you're looking at granting access to your secrets, into whether to granting access to users or service principals, and how that usage is going to change based upon your access you're granting.
Yeah, and that being said, Ryan, we've been talking a lot about service principals. So always a topic that's high on the list when we start talking about service principals are managed identities. And so the question, no doubt, is going to come up for folks: can I grant my managed identity, say for app service or for Key Vault, can I grant my managed service identity access to the Key Vault explicitly?
Yeah, the Key Vault explicitly through IAM, definitely. And then to the secrets, I haven't tested that actually, but you'd be granting it through role assignments.
Yeah, so granting access to the managed identity. So for an app service instance, I think you're going to be more likely someone on the dev side that's dealing with that. If you're on the ops side of infrastructure as code, you're probably much more likely to be interacting with, say, a VM's managed identity. And that being said, I've got 2 quick starts parked for you in the article in the day 104 show notes over on GitHub, folks. So you can walk through those and actually see exactly the steps for dealing with managed service identities, but worth having a look at. And another area, Ryan, since we're on the topic of infrastructure as code and DevOps, and I think about creating a connection from my pipeline. So these secrets are going to be necessary in my CI/CD pipeline, right? So whether it's my build pipeline or my release pipeline,
correct.
I may need access. And I wonder if you could pull up an Azure DevOps instance, so we could look at service connections. So this is an interesting and I want to say fairly new feature in the grand scheme of. I think the first time I was really thinking about this was maybe back in 2019.
Do you have you talking about the DevOps instance for this tenant or for somewhere else?
So if I go into Azure DevOps and into my project settings, I can actually look at service connections under pipelines. This navigation has changed a time or two. If you pull it up here, I can point it out. So they've made it possible for you now in your DevOps instance to actually connect a managed identity over a managed service identity over to your
which project are we talking about?
So if I pull up my DevOps and I click on Azure DevOps, and then let's go to pipelines. Nope, sorry, I'm lying to you, Ryan. Go back up to, you go to project settings. It's all the way down at the bottom.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. So if we go into project settings, we should, under pipelines, see an option for a new service connection. And there it is, service connection. Yes. There we go. So here, folks, is where, and I'll put this navigation in a call out on the screen so you can see it, but here's how I can connect my pipeline to my service with a managed identity. So pick like something generic Microsoft.
Let's go with ARM, right?
Yeah, we'll go with Azure Resource Manager. So there you're looking at ARM. And so here you notice I can select service principal, and I can automate that service principal connection, or I can put a managed identity in here. And remember with managed identities, folks, I talked about using a VM managed identity or an app service managed identity. Those are always going to be your ideal because that is a system generated managed identity. And where that's interesting is that a system managed, a system generated managed identity is life cycle of the service it's associated with. So when you delete the service instance, whatever that is, the identity goes with it. So if you're generating your own identities, you have to clean those up on your own later. And you know, unfortunately, it's something you definitely have to keep your eyeball on because you've got a security principle there that has access to resources. So for you DevOps folks or infrastructure as code focused audience, this is a feature you want to look into in how you connect your pipelines to your services in a way that sort of supersedes your dependence on people. Because if you have, you know, somebody from the dev or ops side of the house, you know, stitching this up and they put secrets in manually and then leave, you know, you're potentially stuck with an area with secrets that you don't know, and that's never a good thing. So that's where service connection can come in handy.
Indeed.
All right, so we've talked about management plane, data plane. We've done some automation with CLI, and remember, folks, in the show notes you will find links to quick starts for PowerShell and CLI and ARM, and the transcript of what we've done here today is over there in the transcript section of the show notes. Ryan, I feel like you've hit all the key points that were on my list. Is there anything else you want to throw on the pile as a parting gift?
Purging. Something to be aware of.
Yeah, so purging and purge protection, hey?
Exactly. So something to be aware of, everyone. When you go into your Key Vault, go to settings part of the main blade and you go under properties, be aware of that as of the latest version of the Azure CLI available, soft delete is enabled by default. After I think November of this year, December of this year, I don't have the specific date, unfortunately, you will no longer be able to create key vaults without soft delete enabled. So just go ahead and get used to it. Soft delete is a good idea. Keep it enabled. It ensures that if someone hacks you or you make a mistake, you can actually recover the key vault. It'll still be associated with your Azure subscription. Its name will be in place. So if you try to create a key vault using that exact same name, your deployment will fail if the key vault is soft deleted. Now, the default days to retain deleted vaults is 90 days. You can change that to as low as 7. The other thing to be aware of, purge protection is not enabled by default, okay? So as you see here, when you just have it disabled, it allows Key Vault and objects to be purged during a retention period. After that retention period, whatever you want to do, if you want to force purge your Key Vault, you can. So purging, let me restate that again. Right now, we can go through and delete this Key Vault and the secrets within the Key Vault, and then we can purge them without any issue. Okay, it'll just allow us to do it. Purge protection is another layer of protection that ensures that it enforces the mandatory number of days to retain the deleted vaults and the secrets as well, or the values that are kept within the Key Vault. So you can't purge before that day that's specified in here. If you're doing any type of automation, this can be a royal pain in your side, okay? So if you're doing a lot of automation, you probably want to keep our purge protection disabled. If though you're using something in a production environment, it would behoove you to keep soft delete enabled and also to keep purge protection enabled. So
Ryan, just to summarize, I want to summarize this just to make sure we're understanding you right. So soft delete's enabled by default, and that means if I delete something, it's not really deleted, right? It's just kind of archived off to the side, but there's nothing stopping me from purging at that point.
Correct.
And then when I check this radio button, it's now preventing anyone from purging this for the number of days we specify. Is that right?
That is correct.
There we go. Great tip from the man himself.
Just to walk you through this very quickly, we can browse through here, delete the secret, refresh, and sometimes it takes a few seconds before it will then show up and manage deleted secrets. Once that's in here, we can either recover the secret or purge it. In this case, we're going to purge it. You'll be warned. This will be unrecoverable, and it's gone. Same thing with Key Vault in regards to secrets that are protected as well or that are deleted. Trying to recreate a secret that is deleted that has soft delete enabled, you won't be able to create the secret as well. Again, this, if you're doing a lot of automation, this is something you need to be aware of, where you're probably better off in the long term just updating your secrets instead of deleting the secrets and recreating them as well. Again, up to you and your team on how you're deciding to manage how you're handling key vaults and secrets in your automation processes. That's all I got, Pete.
Fantastic. Well, that was awesome, Ryan. So that was a nice surprise to finish it off there. Another great session, and you've already set up you set up a little rabbit hole early on that I think we can come back and visit in a later installment. So tell you what, before we sign off, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you on?
Yes, absolutely. If you'd like to, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look me up, or on Twitter at RJO.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, this was fantastic, really, and I think you've helped multiple audiences here. So thanks as always for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So that does it for Azure Key Vault. If you have any suggestions or questions, be sure to drop us a line and give us a like and subscribe so you get a notice every time we drop a video. Good luck, take care, and we'll see you next time.